No. No advances. I know.
Hey, everybody, I'd like to call the Madison Public Schools Board of Education meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is our school/community session, which calls for public participation. I believe we may have some folks who want to speak in the audience today. So if you wanted to kind of read the rules.
Yep.
Emily, thank you.
Hi. So the board welcomes public comment at our meetings. We ask when you speak to state your name and address. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. The meetings such as tonight's are not a time for discussion, so you shouldn't anticipate that there'll be a discussion, but if necessary, members of the public will be contacted for follow-up. If you're in person, raise your hand, you'll be called upon. And if anyone is online, just raise your hand online and we'll call on you there. So do we have anyone?
And also just, say your name and your residence.
Yeah, same rules for online folks. Anyone in person would like to speak? Go right ahead.
My name is Julia Phillips. My address is 33 Sheffield Lane. And this is Lauren, who's also in Madison Youth Unplugged with me. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. We are a parent-led group in town known as Madison Youth Unplugged, or NYU. This group started innocently enough in the spring when a Madison mom created a post on Facebook asking if there were any other parents interested in reading The Anxious Generation and discussing it afterwards. We met to discuss as planned and realized that this was not just a book, it was a call to action. The deeper we dove into the topic of kids and screens, the more we knew we had to do something. This is the cigarettes of our generation. In the 60s, research came out proving how terrible cigarettes were for us, and things changed. People changed, not to be trite, but knowledge is power. After social media blew up in 2004, people didn't know any better. Now we do. Now we know that since 2010, rates of anxiety and depression in our children have increased 145% in girls and 161% in boys. Now we know rates of ADHD are up 72% since 2008. Now we know adolescents who experience cyberbullying are more than 4 times as likely to report thoughts of suicide and suicide attempts than those who are not. Now we know that emergency room visits for self-harm increased 188% in girls and 48% in boys since 2010. Now we know suicide rates have increased 167% for girls and 91% for boys since 2010. You have to step back and look at the statistics that are everywhere and think, what are we doing? It's easier to not upset the status quo until now. We know too much. Let's make the effort and help our kids. The solution involves a collaborative effort between parents and schools and has 4 main tenets as outlined in The Anxious Generation. 1, create more phone-free play and play spaces for kids. 2, wait until after 8th grade to give children smartphones. 3, hold off on social media access for children until age 16. Their brains physically cannot handle it. 4, keep smartphones out of schools. Students should be interacting as they pass in the hallways and chatting and laughing at lunch, not checking their phones and posting videos. This is where you come in.
Okay. Hello, I'm Lauren Carpenter. My address is 40 Kennedy Lane. So one point of our group's mission involves working hand in hand with our school system. There are school restrictions in states across the country, such as Ohio, Indiana, Oklahoma, and Florida, with New York on the way and Governor Lamont voicing support of these efforts here in Connecticut. There are currently over 1 million students in the US who do not have access to smartphones at all during the school day, including Manchester, Connecticut. As a director of an educator preparation program in this state, I know this would be a dream for so many of our teachers in the field. Statistics overwhelmingly favor tempering students' access to phones throughout their school day. The National Center for Education Statistics found in 2020 that there were already smartphone policies in 76% of US schools. Another study found that despite policies and restrictions, 97% of students who carry their smartphones at school use them for 45 minutes or so per day. These 45 minutes can bring unnecessary toxic trauma that removes kids from a healthy, learning-focused mindset. In addition, students are being robbed of face-to-face socialization in spaces such as the school cafeteria due to device usage. What can be done to support our children in immersing themselves in school as a total academic and face-to-face social experience? We've done some research and we have found that Yonder pouches propose a potential solution. If you've ever been to a concert or a comedy show lately, you may have been asked to place your phone in a locked pouch for the duration of the performance. Why is that? Performers want their audiences to enjoy the show, undistracted. When on a Zoom call last month with over 600 leaders in education across the country, we were introduced to a superintendent in Texas who implemented phone restrictions in schools in a very, very big district. Some used Yonder pouches to store students' phones, while others implemented with fidelity a classroom phone jail. When surveyed, about 80% of teachers who implemented the phone jail reported less disciplinary issues, higher student attentiveness, and increased instructional learning time. Beyond that, teachers who used the Yonder pouches consistently reported 10% higher on the same items. Overall, about 90% of teachers reported at least 10 more minutes of instructional class time per day. That turns into about 180 more hours of class time in a school year. Let's let that sink in. We know that teachers have an incredibly difficult job with demands that go well beyond the scope of academic instruction. Managing and motivating kids who are constantly distracted by the incredibly addicting pull of social media, group texts, and the internet at their fingertips should not be one of these demands. Amidst a massive teacher shortage, let's not forget we are very lucky in Madison to have the schools that are well-staffed with caring and expert teachers and excellent administrators. We have the power to support both our teachers and children in this very impactful way that seems so obvious. We have guidelines and roadmaps from schools across the country that have done it before us. And so we hope that in the near future, that we could be one of the next districts in Connecticut to lead this charge. Thank you.
So do we have anyone online? I'll come back to in person. Is there anyone else in person who would like to speak? Yes.
Larry Ciotti, 12 Amber Trail. And first of all, thank you all for allowing us to make public comment. That's a nice part of the agenda. But also I want to acknowledge the work that you folks do on the Board of Education, volunteering your time and all the energy that you have and the expertise you have with all the issues in public education today. TJ knows them all and has experienced them all. And I too, because I'm a former faculty member at Hand. I was very fortunate that the Board of Ed back then, many years ago, was able to give me a 5-year buyout. So they wanted to get rid of me, but it allowed me to go on to other things in life, which is very gratifying for me. But first of all, what I wanted to do is I'm the president of the Madison Athletic Hall of Fame. And I wanted to invite you personally to our induction dinner. And I have invitations here with information on it if you're able to do so. But this is our 10th year of inducting Madison, former Madison athletes. They're all graduates of Hand High School. And when they come up, it's a wonderful affair. It's at the Madison Beach Club. And when they come up and make their induction speech, most all of them credit the education that they got in Madison. And I think it would just give you, you would be able to see the fruits of your labor that you work so hard for in all of these former students of Daniel Hand High School. And it's really a wonderful night. So I would just like to pass these on to you. pass them out. And there's a QR code on there and you can snap a shot of that and go on. You'd have to purchase a ticket, but at 5 o'clock is sort of a social hour. And that 6 o'clock is the dinner. And at 7 o'clock is the actual induction. So you could come to all of it or part of it. And TJ has been there. And so has Chris Farrell as well in the past. And I just think it's an excellent event for you to come to. And I'm personally inviting you. So, and if you do decide to go, my name, my email is on there. Email me so that I can recognize you. When I get up to the podium, I would like to recognize you. Okay. And then the other thing is my Catholic school education from the nuns. I still have scars on my knuckles from the ruler about cursive. That's my second point here. So my grandson, who's 13 years old, did work for my neighbor in her yard, and she paid him with a check. So he came to me and said, Grandpa, she didn't give me money. She gave me this check. And I said, oh yeah, that's, I can cash it for you at the bank and I'll give you the money. He goes, okay, good. I said, just turn it over and sign your name on the back. And he looked at me like, so what's the matter? He goes, I don't have a signature. I said, what, you're 13 years old, you don't have a signature? He said, no, I don't. I said, don't they teach cursive? And he said, no, they don't. So I had to quickly show him how to write his signature. But, it brought up a point where there's so many things in education that have to be addressed. And with technology today, keyboarding, I know, is so important. But there are 22 states that are making it mandatory on January 1st to teach cursive in the country. And Governor Lamont has made a strong recommendation, not a mandate, to teach cursive in grades 1 through 6. And I mean, how long can it take? I don't know. But could it be 10, 15 minutes a day just to teach somebody how to write the letter A? I don't know. But that's my other point that I wanted to make. But generally, my purpose was come to invite you to the induction. So I hope to see 1, 2, 3 of all of you if you can make it. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Kristen, would like to speak at this time. Online zone. Okay. All right, thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is the superintendent's report, Dr. Cook.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Klaskin. Relatively lengthy report. We haven't met in 2 months, so making up for that a little bit with my report here. Today was great. We welcomed 14 new teachers to Madison. On Thursday, all staff returned for professional development, and Friday, as the board knows, is convocation. You are all invited to join us for that at the opening of school for all staff at Daniel Hand High School. School starts, as you all know as well, on Tuesday for all students, so we're very excited about that, and we are ready to have that occur. In terms of summer work, it had been a very busy summer, as I've kept the board updated. A lot of construction going on across the district. Brown for the has just had another huge project. I'm very excited to share with the board. The board did a tour the end of last year, middle of last year, of Brown School, and we're excited to give you another tour at some point of all the work that's going on there to get it ready for to be a pre-K or 5 school a year from now. Daniel Hand looks great, and we experienced, as we had professional development over there, the temperature swings in the building. Where we were in the library, it was probably 65 degrees, but other parts of the building are very, very warm. So I'm very pleased to share, as the board knows as well, but for the public, we have achieved and signed a contract for rooftop units to be replaced over next summer, and that should be, I'm told, a very straightforward project because all the ductwork and everything is in place at the school right now, and so it would be replacing the rooftop units with new rooftop units. And so the goal being that the board does not receive emails from me that says rooftop unit number 7 is blown over the weekend and, you know, there's water in the building or something like that. I, you know, thank Mr. Salvatore and his staff for being very flexible with the swings in temperature and also as the board remembers when we had me ask our accreditation team in, they experienced the building about 2 days after something happened like that and where classrooms were closed. And that was a major recommendation of them. So we're excited when they return in November to be able to tell them that we have a signed contract and that work will occur over the summer. Holston had some smaller projects, but they are coming down to the wire. But I was over there today and things are wrapping up on a door project and also bathroom renovation. So it's a little bit more work than I think they anticipated, but it will update some bathrooms and doors for safety and beautification. So that's great. Jeffrey and Ryerson and TCLC received good cleans over the summer to get them ready for their last year in use as their current models. And so we look forward to celebrating, you know, kind of the last year for those 3 buildings that have really served so many Madison students well. You know, students and staff have great memories from. Wanted to thank Peter Anderson and Ben Whitaker and our entire custodial team for getting the schools ready. And they really do look great. Non-lapsing reserve account, you do have an action item. You received a letter from me on that, and we are asking for approval. This was something, you know, pretty major that the legislator had heard boards of educations over the years about the difficulties, and this board is certainly familiar with that as we close out the school year. So as you know, previously by June 30th, we had to have all funds expended or accounted for. Well, we didn't know all our bills and we didn't have, you know, everything in place, and also, you know, additional costs could still be coming up right until that last minute. And so hearing from boards over the years, and I know Cabe and Chairman Claskin were part of advocating for that as well, that it would be beneficial if we could have a non-lapsing account to carry over funds. And so they granted that to us effective with this past June 30th. I have spoken with Peggy Lyons, you know, board's selectman, and also the Board of Finance chair, and explained to them the board was intending to utilize these funds, spoke to them about how this would work. And their request was that we just provide them a list of expenditures that we do spend that on. So that would be an easy piece, because how this would function is we would bring that list to the board for basically approval at the end. We still have the finance chair close out accounts, you know, at the end of June on last minute expenditures, but also then any unexpended funds would go into a non-lapsing account that we would have some time to spend. My thoughts on this, and to be discussed, you know, of course, when we get to that point with the finance committee, was that we would expend those funds probably within that same calendar year. So the roughly $150,000 that we're projecting, we would project to expend those funds by the end of December. So we're not going into the next budget year with a non-lapsing account. So we asked the board to vote on that, to approve and establish that. I have discussed that also with the board's attorney and Stacy Novitz, our finance director, and that's they're both in agreement with that direction. I had planned to share with the board kind of our status on cell phones. I know we had some speakers on that, and we have a lot of work going on throughout the town. So my kind of high level view, what I would say, and I think we'll have more discussions with this as we move forward, as we expect a state level model policy coming out tomorrow is the plan. Then on that continuum of most restrictive to least restrictive, we're probably closer to the more restrictive. We are not the most restrictive. You heard mention of Yonder packets. Those are packets where students will receive those at the beginning of the day, and they take them home with them and they lock the phone in, and then they unlock it at the end of the day. So we are not at that level, but I would say we've moved more restrictive in the last few years. So I just wanted to share that with you. Daniel Hand last year restricted phones completely during class. And so that was a change from prior. Students prior were able to use phones during the school, during class with teacher permission. So now we've just gone completely restricted during class time. Students are able to use that. Yeah.
Do they keep them with them?
They do keep them with them, and are able to use them during passing time or free time in lunch. So before the school day or at lunchtime, they're able to use them, but they do keep them with them. So that's where that stands. That received some really good feedback from students last year. So we expected maybe some pushback or concerns, but that restriction was met positively by students, and it was actually suggested by students previously, as well as staff. But that was something that we were proud and happy to see how that went. Polson for this year is taking a more restrictive stance. Sixth graders place phones in their locker at the beginning of the day. That is the same as last year. But students in 7th and 8th are required to either leave them in their locker or put them in a caddy within the classroom. So each teacher is provided with a cell phone caddy, kind of like a shoe rack, where you would go in and put your phone in. So they have the option to leave them in their locker or put them in the caddy if they bring them with them to class. So that's new for Polson this year. Brown, no change. Students, if they bring them to school, remember Brown is a grade 4 and 5 school, so it's not all students have phones, but they leave them in their backpack in their locker. So Brown students do not carry their backpacks with them throughout the school. They put them in their locker, and Brown principal reports very few issues, if any. And then Jeffrey and Ryerson are completely restricted, as you would imagine. And they should be, certainly. They've had, what they've seen was that occasionally, and this is rare, but a parent would send an Apple Watch with the student and then communicate that way. So we've had some conversations with parents that's been a distraction at school. So we've asked them not to wear Apple Watches, and that's gone well. So I've also explained to several parents, just in conversation as they've contacted me about cell phones, that the governor's direction, although I know he spoke about a ban, but if you watch deeper or read deeper into his comments, he's releasing a model policy through the State Board of Ed tomorrow. And so my thought on that would be certainly talk it over with the executive committee, but then put that on future policy committee agendas to discuss where that's at, and obviously discuss with the administration staff of where that would stand. But where the governor in one speech said phones would be out of the classrooms by fall. I think some people interpreted that by Labor Day. The earliest, if the board loved the model policy, was looking to do a more restrictive approach, would be after two readings of the board and policy committee work. So, we have some work to do, but as I said, I'm pleased to report we are on the more restrictive side.
These parents that were here, do they know that?
Who I spoke to, I had a really good conversation with over the summer, and they have really done some amazing work. They met with Mr. Salvatore, Ms. Hart, and kind of explained, and I really had a chance to have a good dialogue around that. So they've been in touch, and it's been really good conversations. So any questions on that? Yeah.
So with these funds, what would we use, what would we use them for?
Oh, in terms of the yes.
So would we?
Similar to what we do at the end of the school year when we expend funds, I wanted to make sure we restricted it to, things that are one-time expenses, which is part of the law. But also, I just want to be very clear about that. you'd never want to fund a staff member or anything like that. So, you know, I think the example that was, really, you know, beating a dead horse, so I'm sorry to bring it up again, was Banyan.
No, I was
So-
gonna ask you.
And 10 years from now,
Yeah.
when Mr. Salvatore and I come to you by van uniforms,
I just.
we would
Okay.
hopefully be able to,
I was hoping that.
you know, meet with a board with a, you know, long memory of that from 10 years ago and would be able to put that into that account. So.
It's still around.
So, that would be the perfect example. You know, another one would be, soccer goals, things like that nature where
I want
it's hard to even sometimes estimate, you know, that there was that need right there, but by the end of the year, we knew we needed that, and so that would be something to purchase. Yeah, a small project at the schools, you know, that we weren't able to do, window replacement of, you know, a small area or something like that. Facilities, one-time usage. And I know every Board of Ed that I'm aware of that doesn't, you know, that it's not a regional school district that doesn't have this, is having that discussion, you know, early this school year there. That's really exciting. Yeah, I think for us. Yeah. So moving on to teacher evaluation, really pleased. I'm going to turn this over to Gail, but we are state approved teacher evaluation plan, and my understanding that, you know, because they didn't require approval before, so this is a first for Madison. You know, when I received the job 4 years ago, I was told by a friend that worked at the state that we were the only district that was not approved for a teacher eval plan, and he asked me what my plans were, and I said, can I get started first? But then we had things waived during COVID, and new regs came out, and we you know, the board was supportive of us waiting, so we appreciate that time. But I greatly appreciate Gail's work with the PDAC committee to bring us to this point, and we got some good news to share. So
Yeah, I think the interesting part about that whole story is that the state model actually came closer to where we were all the time. So the guidelines for us were a welcome site and something that we could quite readily work with in our PDAC, and we actually just improved upon the plan. But you reviewed the plan in May, and you voted to approve it on the 21st of May. The state reviewed it as well. We submitted it to them with your board approval. Out of 96 pages, they had 4 sentences that they wanted us to offer very clear verbiage on, and it was just clarifying things that were already in our plan. So the subcommittee of the PDAC saw no problem at all. It was like a technical change. So we are submitting those changes to you tonight. The State Department did request that we have the board vote on the revisions to the plan, those 4 sentences. And I can point them out to you because I know you got a black and white copy. I think you did get online red line version, but I'll just quickly go through those changes for clarification. Page 11 of the plan, item number 1, about halfway through the page, had the addition or the clarification that a digital library would include opportunities for ongoing training. So but that's very easy for us to do. We have lots of training that's done digitally all throughout the year. On the page 13, it just asked for clarification. We always had multiple measures for both leaders and teachers. They wanted the clarification that multiple measures would include organizational health, leader and educator growth, and impact on student learning, growth and achievement. And that they're mutually agreed upon in the goal setting session, which was part of all of our forms and paperwork. Page 15 had 2 red line clarifications, one in the first paragraph about what is continuous learning. They just wanted clarification that the self-reflection and annual summary are based upon standards and goals, which they were again in the forms. And then the annual summary includes a distinction regarding the leader educator's successful completion of the evaluation cycle, which it does have a yes or no on that final form. But that was it. I'm excited to say that on top of getting state approval, we actually have 3 members of the State Department joining us tomorrow in this room for a training on the new Danielson rubrics. We have an expert coming to work with all of the admin team and our evaluators. So it's going to be a very packed room and very hot, no doubt. But we have 3 members of the State Department that also under that training, so we welcome them to join us. So that's kind of the summary. That's where we are today.
Any questions? It is interesting that we were one of the holdouts in the state because we wanted to have more. Well, the state came around to really what we were doing all along, what we were advocating. And it's very interesting. I think what the teachers really opposed at first, and then under Governor Malloy, they got kind of knuckled under as a union to accept this like numerical designation. And we always felt like that numerical designation was a little bit too harsh a way to, you know, if you want to try and encourage a teacher along a path, but you're telling them, ah, you're stuck at 2 or something, you know. We always felt like it was better to do a qualitative rather than a quantitative approach. And it looks like they've really come around to that way of thinking.
Yeah, I think we always embraced professional growth attitude with evaluation. And we see teaching professionals that are with us for 35, 37 years. So we want to encourage them on a path to growth. So there's some exciting models in this that are unique to Madison that we had in our original plan that we actually also expanded to be in the educational leader plan too, which is kind of a neat observational piece, but there's a lot of good pieces to it. And it's nice to know that the state recognized that we are in compliance. So it's nice.
Thank you. So we'll be voting a little bit later on that. There's an action item to vote on those changes that Gail just detailed. Any other questions on that? Yeah, go right ahead.
A little editorializing. This is a very good example of the challenge that this board faces and other boards face in navigating what comes down from the state, which is often a one-size-fits-all model, because they're dealing with every district, and simplified approaches to trying to solve a problem. The state evaluation plan, when it goes back 10 years and continued, was a catastrophe. I mean, it really was. It came out with a guiding principle, which was accountability. And the guiding principle behind that was that difficulties in learning were a result of bad teachers. And so it was a plan that was designed to root teachers out that were not competent. In point of fact, after about 10 years, it eliminated about 0.01 teachers in the state as a result, okay? And was not embraced by teachers, not embraced by administrators. So the evolution, from my perspective, editorializing, is the state saw that it was an abject failure and began to evolve it in ways that begin to take into account the really guiding principles, which is how do we develop adult learning? How do we develop children learning? And how do we develop a culture that promotes continuous learning, which is where Madison was, without spending a ton of time. This is a very, very good plan for a host of reasons, but the most important one is it braces the most fundamental idea about how people learn, how children learn and how adults learn, and build it in on many levels in this plan. Another part that is not in the written plan that really doesn't get discussed, but is a critical part of the plan being effective, which is what has evolved in terms of a system for monitoring both individual student gains and growth and group growth. So, you know, as you're having those professional conversations, Madison has incredible abilities to really track the progress of individual students and group students, and those two go together. And it's just, you know, it's worth stating. But given the struggles we're having around the curriculum, it is a continuing theme, which is how do we work with these simplified approaches to deal with complex issues and be responsive to what we have in this district. And this was a very effective, both in terms of timing and the work. An example where we were able to sustain the fundamental beliefs behind the evaluation system and still keep the state happy.
As is often the case when Steve waxes poetic about curriculum and teacher evaluation, I could not have said it better myself, but thank you. Anything else on that? Okay, we'll have discussion during the action item if anybody has any comments or anything. Okay, so Greg's athletics.
Yes, so originally Chris Farrell and TJ Solitary had planned to be here tonight. Chris had a loss in his family, and tonight was the celebration of life and a park dedication. So there's an event that he came to me with, and I did not want him to miss for his aunt who had passed. And so he is not able to be here. He does have a presentation. I just have one ask of the board as we go through this item. I know we don't vote on it until later, but if you have any questions, if you can ask them while we have TJ, I think I'd like to, if possible, we could release TJ after the presentation. He can fill in any gaps that are there, but he's got a lot on his plate, over the next few days, and I didn't want to keep him here unless he's always welcome to stay, but I didn't want to do that. So I believe the plan was for us to show first Chris's presentation, or did you want to?
I think this
okay,
would be a great start.
Great.
Much for taking the time to allow us to present tonight of the findings from the Tiger Logo and Branding Committee. I first want to apologize for not being able to be there in attendance tonight. Family matter did come up, event came up that I have to be at and attend, so I do apologize. But technology is amazing, so you're able to hear my voice. So hopefully, if you have any questions at the end, Principal Salutary will be able to answer those. I'm also available back in the office tomorrow, so anyone can reach out to me at any time. And I can answer any questions they might have. So as you can see on the left-hand side, logo committee was formed, and this was obviously the purpose was to come up with a consistent image among our athletic programs and all of our teams. Many members of the logo committee, ranging from Principal Salutary to members of our athletic program, in the actual athletic program, and then some coaches and teachers in Daniel Hand High School. We had some parents on there, and we also have representation. Diane was gracious enough to join us to represent the Board of Education. So, we had a very diverse group. We're very happy. Some of the members of the committee are actually alumni of Daniel Hand High School, so that is special as well. So just going over the timeline of events, we had a meeting to review our current practices that happened last year. In that process, we were able to have some great discussion and just review some of our inconsistencies, some of the things that we liked, some of the things we didn't like, and just really, had great conversation, and, that led to, what is next for us. So we felt it was very important that we came up with, the exact, gold color that we should be using, not yellow, not, different types of golds, but just that same exact, color, so everyone was consistent. And then obviously, black being the color that it is, because that's always been a school color. That one was somewhat easier. And then obviously go in and really look at the different logos. And we shared some of the logos that some of the different teams have used over the years, some of the different community members have used. So we just, like I said, we got to take a really good look. We also reviewed old yearbooks. That was kind of neat in itself because we were able to just look at kind of the history of, some of the athletic teams and, kind of see, where there were some changes in what year. So that was awesome. But through that, we were able to come up with the decision to recommend that the school colors, as they've always been, is the university gold and black. Those are the two colors that are synonymous with Daniel Hand High School, Daniel Hand Athletics. It is something that has always been there. There's been some variances over the years due to ordering of uniforms and different little intricacies. But everyone felt very comfortable after the conversation and reviewing yearbooks and reviewing the history that university gold and black are the school colors. Then we got into discussion about the logos. That discussion, led to us coming up with an action plan of, working with some graphic designers. We originally wanted to start with our working with, our students in one of our art classes, but that, with the copyright piece and some of the other things, just logistically, it didn't work out. We didn't want to take away from the curriculum as well, so we went and worked with some graphic designers that we felt really got to understand what we were looking for in our vision. They were actually using AI. That was something that they suggested. 2 out of the 3 suggested is using AI. So we actually I got a little bit of lesson in AI and working with that and using AI images. The best part about that is that it makes some of the choices that we were able to choose from very unique. And then when you get an image from AI, the graphic designer was able to then go and change and do some things to kind of do that. So they had about 10 choices. We were able to get about 10 different tigers that our committee reviewed. We brought them in at the end of the school year last year. And that meeting went, I thought very well. Every single member was able to rank their favorite tiger, their second favorite tiger, and then their third favorite tiger. And from there, a new tiger was born. So the next slide, we will be going over that. So there was a recommendation. It was almost unanimous. Almost every person had this as their number 1 choice or their number 2 choice, which was excellent. And we brought it. We thought it was very important. The committee thought it was very important to just let the coaches review it. They are the ones that are doing all the work with our student athletes on a day-to-day basis. We wanted to make sure that they were able to, give feedback as well. So we brought it to them in June, a couple weeks after that meeting. With the logo committee, the head coaches unanimously loved it. We had everyone in attendance for the meeting that I held at the end of the year for all of our head coaches, and they wanted the logo like when they left that day. They wanted to go and print it, and they wanted to put it on their social media accounts, and they were extremely excited, which was awesome because just the work that the logo and branding committee put in to see the excitement in the coaches was phenomenal. So without further ado, I'm going to move to the next slide. As you can see, there's a side-facing tiger and a front-facing tiger. The logo committee originally thought that we would just stick with a side-facing tiger because everyone really liked the tiger that we were using, even though it wasn't our own. So we had some different options of side-facing tigers, and working with the graphic designer, they also came up with the idea that we could make any side-facing tiger a front-facing tiger. And the logo committee thought that was a great idea. So this is just that same exact tiger. We have a side-facing and a front-facing, and allowing our individual programs, if they want to use the side-facing tiger, they can. If they want to use a front-facing tiger, they can. And that was something that we didn't originally talk about. It was something the process revealed to us, which was awesome. And if you look at the tigers, as you can see, they're just different as far as which way they're looking, either facing you or to the side, but it's the same exact identical tiger. So this was, like I said, the one that the logo committee strongly felt that we should move ahead to the coaches. The coaches are in absolute love with it. They really want it. They're chomping at the bit to get it. We've held off at releasing it to the community until we present it to the Board of Education. They're excited to get it on t-shirts and sweatshirts and shorts. And then the paw is something that is synonymous with Daniel Hinn High School. It is something that is synonymous with Madison. It'll never leave. Madison is something that we've said since the beginning of this, that the paw has always been part of the Madison tradition. So on the upper left, you see a black paw. On the bottom right, you see a gold paw. These 2 paws are the paw that we will be using throughout the district. We will share that with the elementary schools in Polson. Right now at Polson, the only thing that goes on uniforms and some of their gear is the paw for the athletic side of things. So that is something they'll have a digital copy of and they can use when they print things for vendors, just so that consistent image across the district. And then as they move up to the high school, this is where the Daniel Hinn Tiger will come into play. So as you can see, it is a consistent look, with the same exact tiger, but also allowing the programs to kind of have their own look if they want to, whether it's a front-facing tiger, side-facing tiger, or using a gold paw, black paw. And then on top of it, the individual teams, the hockey team, the baseball team, the fencing team, if they want to use the paw or the tiger and put baseball bats or hockey sticks or the anything behind any logos, they can do that, and so that allows them that piece of making it their own. And then moving on to colors and topography, obviously, like I said in the first slide, our school colors, University Gold and Black. That is universal, so everyone will get the hex code. As you can see, it's here, the hex code for University Gold and the hex code for Black. We use Under Armour a lot for our uniforms, just something historically we've used here for, close to 10 years. And Under Armour calls University Gold Campus Gold. Nike calls it something different as well. So it's just individually with some of the bigger companies, they try to have their own names. Campus Gold in Under Armour terms used to be called Steeltown Gold. It just changed, obviously adding more fun to this whole thing, because a lot of our committee members were under the impression that it was Steeltown Gold, but it just within the last 3 weeks changed to Campus Gold. So we just made that change. And then the font, we were able to review a lot of different fonts as well. The committee, as well as the coaches, are very excited on the font, which is Apotech. This is something that we will make sure goes on uniforms. It goes on the team stores with the team gear that the boosters clubs are buying or the families are buying for themselves. So as you can see, there's just different types, different words and different colors. So as you can see right in the middle of the page, the tigers with University Gold, the white outline, and then below it, just Daniel Hand Tigers, just different ways you can see it. And this is all something that will be added to the branding guide so they can see it, and they can, have the visual as well as the name. The bottom right-hand side is something that we call a stitch out. If you get something embroidered on a polo shirt, on a hooded sweatshirt, whatever it might be, I asked one of the printers to just send me a picture of a stitch out. So this is what, it would look like on, some type of clothing. If they got it, it is just the University Gold paw with the white outline, around the paw, and then tigers in the Apotech font. So, very excited. I think everyone, that was involved in the committee work, they did an excellent job. I can't thank them enough. Our coaches are excited. I hope you are all excited. Principal Secretary is there to answer any questions. And as I stated earlier, I will be in the office tomorrow, so reach out to me. But we're very excited to get this going. And thank you so much.
So as you saw, there was great representation in his committee. They did a work more kind of separate. It did take about a year. I think they had their first committee meeting in the fall and didn't wrap up until the spring. And it was after our time to have our last meeting of the year to consider that. So they've been anxious to get this underway. I think they've done some great work. As I know I've shared with the board before, as you go across the district, there's lots of variability in terms of what's there. Even in the same gym, you might see different tigers, different paw prints. So we're really excited to kind of bring that in a consistent marketing and branding way. So Chris has done a lot of great work. And just to remind the board too, it will be several years before we get to that point. Like there's a tiger on the floor of Brown School, gymnasium. That would be years before that's replaced. There's uniforms that we bought last year that would be a few years before that's replaced. Football oftentimes does some different things in terms of colors, and uniforms sometimes are purchased by alumni that may not match the exact same color. So I just want to caution you there, but much better path forward in terms of where we've been, and also I think that removes any concern with any type of copyright or issues that would be out there. Feel that we're in a really good place there. So TJ, anything that I missed?
I think Mr. Farrell did a great job, and I really like to commend him. A long process. It's nice to be on a committee when you're not running it, and it's, a lot of input. We had several meetings, but we also had a lot of time to digest some information that he would share. And he opened it up to all committee members, who wanted to have some individual questions. And by the end, it all got easy. In the beginning, it was definitely like going through the yearbooks. It was pretty exciting to see. But the committee, almost completely unanimous at the end. And then the coaches are all just chomping at the bit. Our band director, we have the uniforms queued up, ready to be printed. Just today, he's like, "Are we ready? Can we go?" And he's waiting. What's that?
Get the new uniform.
Well, we can't move forward until we have the logo to put on the uniforms. So a lot of really good energy, and the uniformity is really important. You know, even if this is a definite tonight and we move forward, like Dr. Cook said, it's going to take some time. You know, with a full transition, just if you consider the uniform cycle itself, let alone, you know, the Tigers and the paw all over, you know, the entire town. So, you know, it was a great committee. I'd be pleased not to ever have to do it again. And yeah, I think we ended up in a really good spot, and the coaches especially like the option to have either a front or forward, or front facing or side facing. Think of like the front on a backpack or something, you know, that could look really cool versus maybe on a uniform, side facing or on a pair of shorts. And
All they decide, like, who will decide for each sport.
when it's uniform time?
Yeah.
Great question. So Chris Farrell will call the students in who are on the actual team. Captains usually take the lead, and they get a lot of input on, you know, what would you like the design of your uniform? It's nice because we have set colors now. And the booster club, for example, can get that information, but the students have a lot of input, and then Chris finalizes with the actual head coach.
Which
And then-
way they'll face.
Yes,
and what color.
yeah, well, they've never had the choice, you know, it's always been side facing. But now to have that option as well would be good for the kids to have a little input. It's exciting, you know, not every student gets a new uniform, you know, in their time at hand. So when it comes up, it's kind of a big deal.
So, I don't know if now would be the best time to discuss a little bit further, like get a little bit more in the weeds on this, or if we should wait until the discussion on the action item, but.
Yeah, I just want to share a little bit, it's probably a little bit more than we need to, but I think to be clear on this, we have a new policy that came in place in March 5th, 2024. This committee was formed in fall of 2024, so we 23. So it was formed before the board's policy. So the action, what we are asking you to take tonight, which is probably more than required, would be to waive that policy, and then we'd like your approval on it. Again, it's probably, you know, more than needed, but I think it was just the cleanest path forward, because as I've shared, we've kind of been all over the board, and I think that this is a good way to handle that, and I think we can discuss at that point if there's any changes or alterations. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you for the.
Thank you for the
report.
You bet.
Thank you. Thank you.
You need for anything else, Dr. Cook?
No, I think so. No, I will see you tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone.
Good luck.
Thank you. Have a great night.
And it's just one last quick item. I spoke to Art Sickle today, and as of now, we're in a good place with bus drivers and food service staffing. As the board remembers, we were not in a great place at this point last year. We were kind of still looking for a couple of bus drivers, and we never fully staffed food service. We are in a better place, not where we were, you know, 10 years ago or anything like that, but he assures me we have enough bus drivers to start the school year off, and we are in a better place with food service than we had been. So two really key areas for us, obviously, and pleased to report that. Probably our biggest staffing concern at this point is para educators. So we're looking for still para educators out there, and you know, we're have some long-term absences that were, you know, recent come up that we'll be able to fill, but you know, we're in a good place to start school on Tuesday. Great. That completes my report.
Thank you, Greg. Board member comments, any comments? Yes, go ahead.
So we are, some of you may remember, but we did a board self-evaluation many moons ago. And so the executive committee and Dr. Cook, we've talked, and we're going to bring that back this fall. So just so you're all aware, I will be sending out, Galen and I are sort of taking the lead on that in anticipation of our retreat in October. So I'll send out, we're just going to use the same CABE tool for board self-evaluation. We'll send it out at our next meeting. We'll make it available, print copy and an online form, give you a couple weeks to complete it, and then that will allow Galen and I to meet and summarize the results for a brief report at our retreat. So you can look out for that.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to comment about the Madison Youth Unplugged folks. So I have attended some of their meetings and I am personally supportive as a parent. But I did just want to say they have really good support in town. There's like 400 folks who are part of their Facebook group and they have regular meetings and they're very motivated and actively involved. And one thing I thought was really interesting was it's a huge range of ages of children. Parents there have preschool age kids, elementary, intermediate, middle, some high school, and then children out of the home. So really interesting range of perspectives. So just wanted to, state that generally, and I know they left some documents on that table for us, so I we can add that to their pile, so.
Thank you.
It's true. That's my comments.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank Chris Farrell and the committee for all the work on the logo. This is huge progress and I'm really excited about the great job that they did.
Anyone else? Christine?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to say quickly, again, I know Craig already mentioned that convocation is on Friday. If you have not had a chance to go to convocation or to attend recently, I really recommend you try and attend. It starts at 8 in the morning. You get an awesome breakfast and then, the morning is filled out with some really cool programming, including the Teacher of the Year and the Paraeducator of the Year awards. It's very inspiring and it's really a great event to attend if you can make it. And then I also just wanted to wish the board, the administration, the schools, everybody, and especially the students, a great year. So that's it.
Can't wait.
Yep. Okay. Any audience response to information presented? No, okay, thank you. Now we move on to board committees and liaison updates, and we will start with curriculum and student development. Stephen.
We have not met. Our next meeting is September 2nd.
Thank you. Facilities committee, Emily.
Yep, so the facilities committee did have a special meeting this evening, primarily to review the 2025-2026 CIP requests. As Peter says SIP, I don't know which way to say it now.
Yeah, the CIP is fine.
Okay.
That's how I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
To that, and we will review it again at our next facilities meeting September 3rd, and then the full board for action September 3rd. You'll see when it's distributed, it's very lean. He worked hard over the summer with his team to smooth out the requests over each year. So you'll see it's pretty slim. Not a lot of big ticket items in there. They have the regular facilities, general planning and engineering costs, security, and then the items, baseball field improvements. You'll see some paving, some minor things, but he did discuss that. And then briefly, we talked about the town's ad hoc facilities committee, which Peter's on and Seth sits on, and Peter sort of gave us a update that he is part of that committee and he is sharing some general information about our buildings with the committee at their request as they work to gather all of that information. And we did not have any public comment and it was a very brief meeting. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Thank you very much, Emily. Finance committee, Galen.
We have not met, and our next meeting is September 17th.
Thank you. Personnel committee, Green.
Yes, we have some good news. The Teamsters contract has been ratified and we're moved on to conversations with the teachers. Union and that's part of our update on it as part of our executive session meeting.
Any questions? Okay. Policy Committee, Diane is unable to be here this evening, she's out of town, but Galen volunteered to give a report on her behalf.
Okay, thank you, Seth. I believe our last policy meeting was June 18th. We discussed some policies that you'll see come up for vote or for review. We discussed the following policies for rescission. 016010, our mission, 6050 organization of instruction, 6080.11 technology and instruction, 6100.9 use of computers and instruction, 6100.9.1 computers, websites and pages, and 6100.15.2 use of internet and online services. These were mostly not necessary or out of date. So the committee voted 3-0 to forward these policies to the board with recommendation to waive the second reading and rescind. I think that's an action item. We also discussed policies 5110.4, 5113. These are pertain to student discipline, student attendance, truancy and chronic absenteeism. 5131.911, bullying prevention and intervention. 5131.914, safe school climate policy. We voted 3-0 to move these policies forward to the board for recommendation to rescind and replace, mostly for reasons of compliance and consistency with the state. There are no public comments, and the meeting was adjourned at 3:53 or 3:33 p.m. Excuse me. And you will see what I just said basically in the agenda. That's the end of the report.
Okay, any questions, comments, Steve?
I'm confused.
Oh, I made a mistake, please.
No, you're completely fine. Yes, the policy committee did review safe school climate and bullying when we all met. Since that meeting, Shipman and Goodwin came back and notified me that there would be additional edits. So I spoke with chairwoman of the committee. We chose to hold it so we didn't have to modify those twice in 1 year. So when we get those additional edits from Shipman, which I expect will be later in September, we'll take another look and then send it through. So it only has to go through the board 1 time. So you'll see those 2 missing from the policy list for action this evening.
Thank you. And did that answer your question, or do you have a different question?
Our mission. I don't understand, what is rescinding?
Yeah, that's not rescinding the mission, that's rescinding the policy that addresses mission. And and you can talk about that in a second, but also just while we're on that topic, that's one of the things that Craig and Gail will be addressing during our upcoming fall retreat. We're going to be discussing our mission, our vision, and see if any revisioning is in order.
If I could just read what from the notes, and then I'll let Craig, expand upon this. So according to Shipman and Goodwin, it's been reviewed, a mission or vision statement is not a necessary policy under Connecticut or federal law. It can be maintained by the board, but it's not a quote policy unquote that gives direction to the administration or staff. And so I think we want to certainly come up with a mission statement, but maybe not place it in policy where it is right now.
Yes, that is basic.
Yeah, and my only question on that is, if there is no policy as it regards mission, then the district could decide not to have one, not to do any work around one, not to have it be the focus. There's no requirement that having a mission, discussing a mission, reviewing a mission takes place. And that's concerning to me.
Well, why don't we take that back up with Diane when she's in town and the policy committee. Because I honestly, I don't remember what their other than generically saying you don't need to have a mission policy to have a mission statement. You bring up a good point, Steve, that Diane and the policy committee may want to consider just in terms of, having a general statement that it's the board's intention to have a committee, a mission. For example, so.
If I just may point out, the policy that you're assuming here is not a policy stating that we should have a mission statement. It's just the mission statement copied and pasted into a policy. It exists elsewhere on the website, but this is not give any direction.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean,
So well, you would have to go through rescinding it after you have a board meeting, or have to do it right before, or any of that if you did wanna make edits. So. You could ask policy to consider how to.
Or replace, yeah, right, but I think that's a good direction to, put it back to committee.
yeah, I mean, I could see just having a simple policy that says, you know, the board recognizes the importance of being a mission driven organization and to follow is the current mission statement or something like that.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, I'd like to see further a time frame
yeah,
that asks for a periodic review and discussion.
yeah. I
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think you raised good points and we should take it back to committee. Absolutely.
Yeah, and sometimes we get recommendations like that from Shipman and Goodwin, which is just like, this isn't necessary, and we're trying to we're trying to bring our policies back in. And organize them and make them more, you know, trim, and get rid of a lot of fluff that we don't need, that we're already, you know, subject to statutes for anyway. But this does seem like one area where we don't have to have a policy, but we may want to have a policy.
Yeah, and if I could quote my notes from the committee meeting, I just jotted down mission to be determined next year, rational content, location, delivery. Okay, to be determined, so that is a policy statement.
That's the note that you took,
Yeah,
based on this discussion.
no, yes, that's the note that I took contemporaneously during the last policy meeting.
Would you repeat that again?
Sure. I just wrote down mission to be determined next year. As something for the board to work on.
Okay,
And that, I think to Zoe's point, you know, location, it's still on the website, it's still, location is still there for people to.
Yeah. All right, well, good point. Thank you all for discussing that and being open to that. So we will refer that back to committee.
Yeah.
For further discussion. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Learn Liaison, Mary Ann.
We haven't met
Haven't met
since breakfast.
summer. Thank you. All right, moving on to action item 7. I need a motion to waive the second reading and rescind the following policies. 0100/6010, our mission. 6050, organization of instruction. 6080.11, technology and instruction. 6100.9, use of computers in instruction. 6100.9.1, computers and websites and pages. 6100.15.2, use of internet/online services. It occurs to me that we probably want to amend this to take out our mission 0100/6010. So can I get a motion as amended? Maureen, and can I get a second? And that's Mary Ann, thank you. All right, the motion is to waive the second reading and rescind the following policies. 6050, organization of instruction. 6080.11, technology and instruction. 6100.9, use of computers in instruction. 6100.9.1, computers, websites and pages. 6100.15.2, use of internet/online services. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Action item number 8. I need a motion to waive the second reading and approve policy 5113, student attendance, truancy and chronic absenteeism.
So moved.
Emily, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Galen, thank you. So the motion is to waive the second reading and approve policy 5113, student attendance, truancy and chronic absenteeism. Any discussion? Yes.
I think this ties into TJ's presentation last spring. It's a very good, thorough presentation with the rationale for it.
Anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Action item 9, I need a motion to establish a Board of Education non-lapsing reserve fund in keeping with the conditions set forth in Public Act 24-45 to support one-time educational expenditures. So moved. Stephen,
I'll second.
seconded by Galen. Thank you. All right, so going back to what we discussed during the superintendent's report. So this would be to establish a fund that could be at a maximum of 2% of our annual budget. Kind of as a carryover for one-time use educational expenditures, not operations oriented. Any discussion? Any questions? Stephen? Proposals on the expenditures would come before the board, I assume. It would be initially before the finance committee. The finance committee would treat it the same way as the year-end expenditures now, where, the chair would come up with a list and propose it to the board. The board would then vote it. Well, the committee would vote on it and then present it to the board. The board would vote on it. So yes, we will have complete oversight. One advantage of this is that it eliminates having to go to the boards of selectmen and finance. And gives us a bit more control over the year-end money so that we can make one-time purchases and that sort of thing. Kind of travel light and do it more quickly when we need to order, something at the end of the year, like uniforms, so that they can be in time for fall sports or something. We can move quicker on things like that. Any further questions or discussions? No? All right, all in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Action item 10. Action item 10, I need a motion to approve the Madison Public Schools teacher evaluation plan as amended. And remember, this is just the 4 amendments that Gail discussed tonight, because we already passed the Madison Public Schools teachers evaluation plan back in May. So a motion, all right, Stephen, and do I have a second?
Second.
Emily? Any discussion? Any questions? Okay, all in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations, good job, and thank you. Yes, really. Action item 11. I need a motion to waive policy 1200 school district logo and mascot and accept the athletics logo as recommended by the athletics logo / branding committee. I need that motion first. Maureen. Is there a second? Mary Ann, thank you. Discussion, okay. I am speaking partly on behalf of Diane, who, as you know, can't be here this evening, but she asked me to bring a representative discussion point up and a recommendation for how to address her concern. Her concern is that the whole logo redo was initially started out of a concern, one that she had raised in fairness, that we could potentially be at risk for some legal liability for maintaining the paw print logo that was very close in design. It was the same design, quite frankly, just different color to the logo that is in use by Clemson University. And so that started the whole concept of, well, let's get something on the record. And Chris also wanted to unify all of the look and feel of all the logos across the whole district. And so a lot of that stuff was addressed, and both Diane and I feel that, for the most part, that's good work there. The one concern that she maintains is that while some changes were made to the paw print logo, she feels that we still may have some legal liability for it looking a little bit too much like the Clemson paw print. And so just to let you know, it seems like what was done was, first of all,
the colors are different than the Clemson paw print.
There's no scar.
There's no scar on one of the, on part of the paw, and the tilt is different of the paw print. The concern that Diane raised was that the fuzzy outlines of the toes and the center paw, center of the paw, palm, I guess you would call it, were not modified from the original Clemson version. Putting my lawyer hat on, could we get a cease and desist letter on that basis? We probably could. Would it amount to anything? I'm not entirely sure. But that said, her point was that we could probably just do a very quick revision that would be very quick and easy to do, would result in something that does look appreciably different than the paw print from Clemson, just by changing some of the contours of the fuzz around those subsections of the paw print. Her recommendation, because I pointed out she recognizes that we really need to, the goal is to move on this. And we need to order uniforms and that sort of thing.
But wouldn't Chris know, or TJ, or our lawyer here know whether we're able to move forward with that? Legally.
Yeah, but the problem is there was one meeting that Diane couldn't attend. And then the paw print was adopted, and I think she didn't really have an opportunity.
No, I understand.
To give a final
that, but what I'm
assessment.
trying to say is, there were a lot of other people on the committee. Wouldn't they have, brought that up, or someone would have, especially like our athletic director, when he said, well, that's really, we would have known, really too close to Clemson, wouldn't.
There's no indication that came up, so the answer to that question, I guess, is no. It wasn't considered to that extent, but Maureen, did you have a question?
Yeah, I thought the same thing when I saw the logo, to be honest with you, because my daughter's a close student and she has that on a lot of her uniforms, and I've printed it myself. And I thought when I looked at it, I noticed the scar was gone and it was up front, but I noticed there's the same little hole and the same outlines. And I thought to myself, like, they must have looked at this, made some changes. But if they didn't, I think that that's something we should look at. I don't think it needs to be a big deal, just move the fur around, and there's like a little hole in one of the paw prints, just fill it in. Just make it a little bit more different, because it was pretty obvious. But I would think if we're under the gun, we can, print what we have for now.
Actually, let me, before we finish the discussion, let me just propose what she was proposing.
Sure.
To handle it procedurally, so that it doesn't hold us back at all.
Perfect.
Her suggestion is that we treat this kind of like the same way we would amend minutes. If somebody was reviewing the minutes and said, oh, you said Seth instead of Steve, or Maureen or something, then we would adopt the minutes as amended, right? So her concept was, we could vote on it tonight with an amendment, a proposed amendment to the motion. And that amendment would recommend that it go back for just minor revision of the fuzzy edges of the paw print. Okay, and that we that as part of that motion, that amended motion, we also make it up to the discretion of the superintendent, working with Chris Farrell to just assess, like, yeah, it looks different enough. Let's go with it. Okay, so that we voted already, and as soon as Craig is satisfied that it's a little bit different, then they can move forward with orders, and that'll be our new logo.
Is this the print we've always had?
No, it's actually,
That's what I mean,
If you look at the one above it, that's
This
the
one?
background, that's the one that's really being proposed. It's hard to,
It's not these,
no, it's the one that's above it. And so
that one.
if I could just add a little bit more detail to this, the original direction, from the administration, and I know from the board, even when Chris was interviewed, was this was work we needed to do, that branding throughout, because I think the board members even recognized that this was all over the place. And so I know the committee did discuss two things. One, the sideways tiger that's in play right now and still on uniforms was lifted directly from Towson State House. It's the exact same one. Chris inherited this, so he's been really working hard, since the beginning to kind of get a lay of the land, and then year two, do the work to kind of change that. So they talked about that, and they talked about changing the paw print. Now, do I think that Clemson is going to contact us in Madison? I do not. I will say that the tiger is the most common high school
I've seen
mascot.
prints all over everywhere.
But with that said, I do recognize the concern, and I think that some minor changes to the logo on top, the background one, will serve us well and to move the issue forward, and I don't think it will change anything.
So this is 1,000.
No, so I'm sorry, so the one previously, so I
Oh,
should
like
but
that.
that's the new version that we're voting on. Yeah.
And
So that-
I think with the paw print, they could also look at, just, it wouldn't be much to make it different, but it's the same exact distance, and everything is the same exact shape, even if there's just a little more space, or
Yeah.
one of the paws is a little bit narrower, just something. Or at least fill in the divots that are.
Change the outline of some of the
The
divots.
divots are just so obvious, if you're work with that logo a lot.
I agree, and I think that, I just want to be clear, I know one of the things that in previous discussions with Diane, she was wanting to do was a smooth outline of the paw print. That was not what the committee recommended, so if I'm charged as Seth explained, I think what I would do is work with Zoe and Chris and kind of come out with, kind of filling in some of those as more.
Yeah, fill in a few things, and they're harder to work with all those little divots too, depending on what you're doing. But everything is the exact same spacing and it's the same shape, so just minor tweaks. I mean, the thing, I know that the thing that Clemson's extremely proud of is the scar and the 1 o'clock angle on the logo, so it's good that we got rid of those, so I think that will certainly keep us on hot water, because I've seen that in a lot of their stuff. But I think there's just some other tweaks, like the pad of the paw doesn't have to be in the exact same shape, just tiny differences. I do love the fur on it, I would keep that, I like that, but I do feel, that was my first thought, it was very similar, but this one looks even different than.
So I know that Gabriel wanted to speak up earlier, so sorry.
Same thing, just accept the recommendation, the committee's recommendation with the provision that Craig can change it at his discretion. Get going.
And overall, they did a great job.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it's exciting.
No, I think it is exciting because as I've shared before, you walk through our gyms or see your athletes out there, it's all different stuff right now, and I think that will be good going forward. It's just, will take a little while. Yeah.
Craig, on this one, the smaller ones, like that isn't so Clemson, like they're not.
Well, it's closer together, if you
So
see that.
just like that might be something like that, or something in between the two.
It'd be nice if we had something that could be replicated, whether it's the raised seal.
But if you look at this one, it looks totally different than these two, anyway.
Yeah, I think that from the video, what Chris was referring to that is kind of like a raised seal,
Yeah.
when you get a
Oh, this one over here.
But that's still
Sweater.
good direction to give them, because that one looks different enough, but it's still.
And if I embroidered it, really.
I love the idea that they have the sideways facing and the front facing, I think that's really interesting.
Just coming up with the language for the potential amended motion real quick.
This one? Oh, I had opened the Clemson page. Oh, I just looking at it. Yeah.
1 o'clock.
Yeah, it goes this way.
Maureen, you said that came from an actual tiger, like that was their.
I can't remember, but I think there was a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It'll just be
They did look for Bridgeport.
I used to.
Really?
Yeah, that was one of the things.
What about a cat? Someone must have a cat in there.
But they are.
A tiger.
They are probably-
Just a little pop up paw prickly. The cat.
I can't remember the story on it, but I just know that they're very fast on score. And the tilt.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we could
Okay,
literally.
I think I've got it.
Or a dog.
That doesn't look very aggressive though.
A dog.
I need a motion.
Doggo.
I need a motion to amend action item number 11 as follows, to waive policy number 1200, school district logo and mascot, and accept the athletics logo as recommended by the athletics logo and branding committee, subject to discussion and to authorize the superintendent to approve the final version of the paw print logo.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Emily, and I'm sorry, I'm sorry,
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
It doesn't give Craig permission to change it at his discretion or really approve it.
Well, approve the final version, I think it implies that
The committee doesn't have to.
there's some revision based on the discussion we had tonight.
Okay.
That was built into the motion.
Right.
Yeah, the pressure's on, Craig. All right, and who seconded it? Maureen? Thank you, okay, so we try this again. So now we have an amended motion on the floor for action item number 11. And the motion is to amend the previous motion to waive policy 1200 school district logo and mascot and accept the athletics logo as recommended by the athletics logo and branding committee, subject to the discussion held this evening, and to authorize the superintendent to approve the final version of the paw print logo.
So moved.
Okay, and we had, okay, well, I had Maureen on the second.
Oh.
Yeah, I was just rereading it. So any further discussion? No, all in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All right, approved, it is passed 7-0. Big as amended, thank you. Yeah. And that is exciting, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take away from it.
No, I agree.
Some picayune stuff, but I think that'll serve us well. So, okay, action item number 12. I need a motion to approve a donation from the Ryerson PTO to Ryerson Elementary School in the amount of $15,630 to fund educational experiences for the 24-25 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Emily,
Oh, sorry.
second. Mary Ann.
That's great.
Discussion, I mean, wow, $15,630. That's why
This is from fundraising?
yeah.
Do they get to go to one
Yeah.
I think with basically the last year of the school being in existence as it is, they're looking to kind of, spend the money that was in their account.
Yes.
Impressive.
Yes, it
It
is,
is.
and very, very appreciated. Any other comments or questions? I'll call the question, all in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Any abstentions, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Now we have action item number 13. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the August 12th, 2024 Special Board of Education meeting. This was the one where we just called the meeting just for a executive session.
So moved.
Emily, second. Marianne. You, any discussion? Recommended edits, all in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Any abstentions, motion carries 7-0. Action item number 14. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the June 17th, 2024 Board of Education meeting. Need a motion, Galen, looking at you. Second. Stephen, you. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Now item number 15 is to discuss and take possible action on central office contracts and teacher negotiations. And this discussion is proposed for executive session. So I need a motion to enter into executive session to discuss central office contracts and teacher negotiations at 9 p.m. and invite in Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Craig Cook. I need the motion.
So
Steve. Second. Maureen. Any discussion on going into executive session? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries 7-0. We are now in executive session.
Hang on.
Yes.
Christine, the executive session, the Zoom is not gonna stay open for executive session, so I'll be moving you out. If you want to stay on to end the meeting later, I'm gonna move you out to just being a panelist, and then I'll move you back later. You guys will stay in this room. I'm gonna shut everything off.
Okay. Just let us know when we're good. Thank you. Good luck this year.
See ya curriculum.
Go for it.
Okay, so. I need a motion to return to regular session after our executive session. And that would be at 9:21 PM. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Emily, second. Mary Ann, thank you. And is Christine joining us or not for this?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, any discussion on re-entering regular session at 9:21 PM? Well, all in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. All right. Because we already went into executive session stating that we were discussing and taking possible action on the central office contracts and teacher negotiations. After discussion in executive session, we don't need to vote to change the agenda. All we need to do is vote on the action item that resulted from the executive session. So I need this, I guess, will be action item 16.
You don't need to number it, it exists under the
Oh,
discuss, take action.
okay. All right, so action item resulting from the executive session, I need a motion to authorize the superintendent to execute an amendment to an existing central office contract in keeping with the terms discussed in executive session. So moved. Steve, do I have a second? Maureen? Okay, any discussion? Any questions? All in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. All right, thank you very much. Now, any future agenda items anybody want to discuss? Request? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Emily, seconded by Mary Ann. To adjourn at 9:25. Discussion, no, all in favor, aye.
Aye.